Hello, today I'm going to be talking about point of view and adaptations. The film I chose for this one was Moonlight, and the play that it was based off of is called In Moonlight, Black Boys of Blue. Um, Unfortunately, there's not too much known about the play it came from because the play seems to be unpublished or just wasn't completed, so we don't have too much to base off of. Um, so what I did is I took the shooting script and I took a little bit of what we know um, from the play based off um, an article by the Fader. Um, but first, talking about POV, um, the POV, the point of view of the movie follows Chiron, who goes through his life. Um, it just shows a lot of his key moments and how he changes from um, little to Chiron to Black. And these are all the names he's been called throughout his life. When he was very little, or when he was very young, he was called Little, and it uses these nicknames to characterize parts of his life or to compartmentalize parts of his life. So originally he was called Little, and he is very timid, doesn't use many words. Um, he actually wouldn't during that whole section of the movie. He's like said very like few words. Like, there was like most of the time he wouldn't talk if he was spoken to. But then we get to Chiron. He starts talking a little more to his friends and stuff, but he's still very quiet. And even when he's called Black, he's still not talked to a lot. But he still doesn't talk a lot, but he talks a little bit more. You see, he found his voice and like how he wants to talk and who he chooses to talk to. Um, there's no direct narration, but if I had to say, it was more restricted narration because it's only really what Chiron knows. It gives us like the three stages of his life, but we don't know too much more outside of that, and we don't get to know much about other characters. And in the same way, the focalization of this was also focused on Chiron, as um, we only see much of um, what Chiron does throughout his life, and we never really see it from another character's view. Um, there's no real narrator. Moonlight is, I would say, technically pretty reliable. It's very restricted, and we don't really see um, anybody else, so it kind of has to be truthful because we're seeing these scenes as we're seeing him talk. So um, there's also a little bit of objective and subjective narration because we see all these events from the outside world without seeing like his like thoughts and all that, which is very, very objective. And like whenever he's walking around, we don't really see what he's thinking. We just see his like what he does. Um, but in sort of like the way the film shows it, um, it would show like when he's getting beat up or something. Um, uh, the like sound goes out, and when um, the principal is talking to him after he gets beat up, you can see the camera fade a little bit, and the sound gets muted, and he's like zoning out of what the teacher is telling him because he's not listening to the teacher at all. So it would be like a little bit of objective and subjective narration, um, and it uses a little bit of internal and external POV. It shows um, Chiron's what he sees, and it uses um, outside POV. So like what other people see from like how other people see Chiron, but it doesn't like give their thoughts or anything. It just shows outside point of view. Um, in terms of adaptation, which is a little harder to do with this, um, the script for the um, final scene with Kevin, when it's adult Chiron, who's called Black, um, it's a little during the movie. It skips all of it, but it just shows them very much together at the end, where they're like, where Kevin's holding Chiron. But in the script, it gets a little bit more into detail. There's a little bit of um, dialogue between the characters, but yeah, overall, there's not too much we can really know. We know that the play was probably a little more brief, just based off how plays are on a lot of these like smaller moments, like the swimming lesson with Juan. We can assume that it was a lot shorter and not presented too well through, um, as well as the film made it seem where the film shows him actually learning how to swim. Showing Juan uh, teaching him how to swim and all that. But in this movie, we see Chiron, or in the film or in the play, we can assume that is less, um, a lot less focused on the parts and not showing all the details that it showed in the film. We can also assume this with other small things like um, some of the confrontations with his mother. Um, and yeah, overall, we don't know too much about the play, but we know that um, in the script there's some things that are more detailed and some things that are left a little more vague on purpose. And we know that the play probably wasn't as detailed as the film. So, especially because you won't get as much control over the sound effects and stuff and the lighting and all that when you're doing a play. So that's my review on Moonlight.